on TLDR this week.
All right. Are you ready for the main topic, Nick?
I'm ready for your music. What do we got?
Tommy, are you ready for the main topic?
All right, now let's go get him.
Oh, it didn't. It cut out.
Why does that happen sometimes? I don't understand it. Like, it's not a you thing. It's a StreamYard thing. Let's
Yeah,
try it
I
again.
don't know.
All right, now let's go get him.
Thank you, Tommy. Yeah, we're ready to do it now here. I was thinking about doing Time Keeps on Slipping into the future. But then I saw Mac and Goo do it, and I was like, I can't do that. Yeah.
Did they?
Yeah. Well, they were singing it. Goo actually can carry a tune, unlike myself here. So but nevertheless, Loki season 2. Nick, what is the synopsis here?
Okay. Along with Mobius, Hunter, B-15, and a team of new and returning characters, Loki navigates an ever-expanding and increasingly dangerous multiverse in a search of Sylvie, Judge Renslayer, Miss Minutes, and the truth of what it means to possess free will and glorious purpose.
And glorious purpose here, yes. This is created by Michael Waldron, starring Tom Hiddleston as Loki, Owen Wilson as Mobius, who is just delightful, Sophia DiMartino as Sylvie, Wumni Masaku as Hunter B-15, Gugu Mbatha Ra as Ravana Renslayer, Eugene Cordero as Casey, Neil Elise as Hunter D-90, Tara Strong voicing Miss Minutes, Ki Huai Kwan as OB or Boris, Jonathan Majors as He Who Remains, Raphael Casal as Brad Wolf or Hunter M something. I don't know. I forget what his name was, but
5?
Something like that. Yeah, he had it tattooed on himself there. Kate Dickey as General Dox and Liz Carr as Judge Gamble.
Okay, and then obviously we don't have any box office numbers for shows, but for the critics, this got an 8.6 out of 10 on IMDb and has an 81-81 split on Rotten Tomatoes, 4.8 out of 5 on Google reviews, with 89% of Google users liking this movie. Now, this is again one where I'm surprised by, like, 4.8 out of 5. It's almost a 5 out of 5 series.
Near perfect.
But only 89% of the people liked it.
Yeah,
it's like the math doesn't add up.
Yeah, that's interesting there. Now, while we don't have box office numbers for a TV show, I think I did read that this was maybe on its premiere or maybe overall. Again, don't quote me on this here, but I thought I saw that it was 40% lower viewership numbers than season 1.
Really?
I thought so. Yeah, which is surprising to me, but
it's crazy. I mean, look, there's no question that, like, hey, while I don't suffer from Marvel fatigue, I mean, like, I know you've battled with it from time to time.
Yeah, I need a prescription.
And I think that where you're at is far different from where everybody else is at. Clearly, look, those numbers dropped off. Like, for all the frustration about the multiverse and how we're not getting shit and everything, like, I didn't love Loki like everybody else, but Loki delivered that element better than anybody else.
I also wonder if people are just canceling Disney Plus.
That's fair.
Yeah, just because the app isn't great. I saw ads recently that they're rolling it into Hulu. It's all, you can all get like your ESPN Plus, your Hulu, and your Disney Plus all in one payment package there, which great, a bundle. You're just going to be selling cable at one point, but that's a topic for another discussion. But I wonder if just people aren't like as prices get increased for all these streaming services, they're like, all right, let's make a cut somewhere.
The prices are getting, like, I mean, it's everywhere across the board they're raising, and then on top of that, like, everybody's saying, like, oh, we're gonna they're gonna take away the password sharing and stuff like that. Have they already done it?
I think my mom uses my our Netflix and YouTube TV accounts and everything like that. So sometimes I got to go over there. And I don't know if that's just her being a boomer old lady who can't work her TV anymore. But I have to like log her back into Netflix sometimes because it doesn't register or just might kick her out. Or you have to do like two-factor authentication.
Yeah.
So like I have to take a photo from my phone, which is linked to the account of the TV screen, to get the QR code, to get the okay to go in. It's like a whole pain in the ass.
Yeah. My pain in the ass is my dad never writes down passwords. So we share a few things, and every time, like, he doesn't have to do it a ton. Like, he's better about it now, but like he has to ask me what passwords are for certain things, and I'm like, you are the one. Like, what the fuck, man?
Well, now you know how I feel when you and Billy D text me all the time. Hey, send me the StreamYard code.
God, no, I
No,
legitimately feel bad
I'm
every
just
time.
giving you shit on that.
No, I know, but I feel bad every time that I have to do it. I mean, and it's yeah. Anyways,
No, it's no problem at all. Happy to do it, and I'm also happy
mm.
to hear your score and your tweet length review.
Oh, well, thank you, sir. So
Mm.
I gave this an 89 out of 100. This takes what the first season of Loki started and does so much more. Glorious ending. Only flaw, this season gets a little bit convoluted from time to time.
I would say a lot of bit there,
Yeah.
but I think we're closer than what our score might even indicate here, because I give this an 86 out of 100, which is still pretty close. But I reading your review compared to mine, I think we're like saying the same exact thing. The premiere series of the MCU, Loki season 2 did what others couldn't, end the series on a satisfying note. It's highlighted by great performances and set design. Loki season 2 tells an effective story, though it was nebulous and at times a little dull.
So I don't look. We don't. I think I can speak for you when I say this, but I don't keep track of all the reasons I deduct points on a show or a movie, because I always say, like, I started at 95 and you have to earn those extra 5 points, and that usually does not happen. But I can say, like, I can't throw a number at it, but of the I guess 6 points that were lost from starting at 95, if not all of them, the majority of them were the result of like how this was like the explanation of some of the shit was just so like, huh?
Yeah, and some of it is, there's a lot of explanation in this, and sometimes it's really great and riveting, like we got in episode 6 and a little bit of episode 5 with the backstories there. But like, I think of 2, 3, and 4, it really started to lose me. I'm like, all right, where are we going here? There's some good moments from it. I think the 1893 episode is definitely a standout there for a couple of reasons. But it was like frustratingly slow at times.
Yeah, there was definitely some moments where it didn't, like, the pacing might have been off. I think honestly, it's like some of these explanations that we kind of get into. I feel like I loved episode 6, but I feel like maybe it was episode 5 where I kind of got no, episode 5. Anyways, there were definitely times mixed in throughout where I was just like, okay, you're explaining this so fast that like I don't mind it. Like, especially with OB or Timely, you could kind of get away with it at moments.
Yeah. Well, Timely doesn't do anything.
No,
timely.
You're right. He doesn't. But the way he is, you could get away with it.
Yeah.
I'm still like, yeah, but this is all kind of like messy. Like, Loki brings it all together in the end, and obviously He Who Remains like just kind of answers it all like in a simple manner. So it all works, but it makes the tail chasing like make even more sense looking back on it. But still, at times, there's just like, wow, this is like, what the fuck is going on?
It's kind of in the sense like when we reviewed Tenet, when we braved our souls during COVID to go see it, where it's like, I understand what's going on and I get it, but explaining it's going to be a little tough. Like if we get down to the nitty gritty, almost like an Endgame too, when you talk about going back in time and then we're coming back and forth like that.
But what do you think when you compare this to Endgame and explaining, like, obviously we're talking about two different things, but similar still. I mean, there is there is time travel in this one with Loki. Do you find that which was not necessarily more confusing, which one was easier to accept and take in between
Endgame? I ultimately accepted both here, but when you start dealing with multiversal time, where time is no longer linear, and then you can just like also go forwards and backwards, but you can go left and right to other timelines. You know what I mean? Like,
true.
That's when you get this like multi-directional angle there. That's crazy for me.
I feel like the Endgame one was definitely simpler. But I felt like Loki's was, as much as it was so complex and complicated, it didn't feel like anything was done wrong in the way. Nothing was like yada 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 over. Maybe it would have been helpful if some of it was yada 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 over, but like it's not. It wasn't. Where again, I'm fine with what they did in Endgame. I love Endgame, but it's like this is it. Like, don't overthink it. With Loki, it's like
Right.
there's so much fucking shit going on, and we cannot figure out what the fuck it is. We're as
Mhm.
confused as you are. Like, it all kind of like fits perfectly. I feel like it's done a little bit better. As much as I wouldn't prefer this in Endgame because it was a long enough movie on its own.
Yeah. And the stakes were too much too, like
Yes.
you can't dance around too much with it there.
No. But then and then Tenet's an interesting one that you bring into the mix too, because I feel like Tenet. Okay, Endgame's easier to explain than any of them, but Tenet, I think, could be easier to explain than Loki outside of the He Who Remains stuff. But it's
Yeah.
also more of a mind fuck, I feel like.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't even want to get too deep into it because I
I'm
feel
not
like I'm
gonna-
already exposing myself as a big old dummy.
Yeah, same.
But so I'm just gonna keep saying yes to you. But nevertheless, that 89-86 score gives us a CMM aggregate of 87.5, which is in a 3-way tie with Hawkeye, the original Iron Man, and Loki. Hawkeye breaks that tie with the highest individual score. Iron Man and Loki season 2, virtually identical, same exact scores by both Nick and I. In comparison, Loki season 1 is number 13th with an 87-92 split for an 89.5. And I feel very comfortable with how those two shows are ranked. If we were to go back and do a re-ranking of anything, I don't think I would change those. I feel like they're both really good seasons of television, but for me, season 2 is just slightly under season 1.
It would be an interesting study to like go and like re-rank them, like without looking at our scores, just like here's the whole list of everything we've gotten. How are you as individuals put it together, and what does our list come out as? Is it the same as what we've gotten watching all of these, a second, on a rewatch or first time through, whatever. But I mean, look, Loki, obviously the ending of the first season was crazy. It was amazing. I didn't love the rest of it. I didn't think it was like poorly done. It just didn't do it for me. Part of the reason is I'm not as much of a Mobius guy as you are. Like, that's flat out.
Yeah. Well, that will have a big effect one way or the other, right? Yeah.
100%. But like, still, like, these are very much on a similar level. I just feel like this is better this round.
All right. Well, let's dive into it with the exit survey. Nick, we discussed this a little bit here. I think we're on the same page. Favorite episode of the 6-episode season?
I mean, it's the finale. I thought it was perfect for the character, and I don't know if you said this already. I might have just skipped my mind, but for a reminder for anybody who's new to the show, this is a spoiler-filled podcast. Obviously, we're talking about the season in
spoilers.
But yeah, the way it ends for Loki is perfect for the character. This whole time he's been like, obviously he changed a lot. The original Loki that we got, obviously this is a variant, but this is what the original Loki basically wanted. He didn't know this wasn't exactly what it was, but he wanted to be like this larger than life figure. And
he wanted the crown. He wanted the throne.
It doesn't get any, the throne and the crown don't get any fucking bigger or heavier than the role that he has taken on. And I think Lauren looked it up after the show. I think he transformed from the god of chaos or mischief to the god of story with this.
Yeah, and I kept, when I would watch reviews and breakdowns and stuff by streamers on YouTube about this, there's a God Loki run or like a Agent of Chaos comic book run. I don't know if you're familiar with that. That kind of goes into this where he becomes the god of stories like that, which is interesting because if we are getting an Eternals 2, Sprite is also god of stories, is she not?
Maybe.
I'm not sure if I'm using the right name there, but the little girl who can't
the redhead,
age.
Yeah. No, maybe I don't know. I'm not sure.
Because that was her whole thing. I remember one of my favorite takeaways from wow, I'm just blanking on the name. Eternals. It was her telling the story of Gilgamesh to all the people there, and that's how we got the Epic of Gilgamesh and some of the stuff like that.
Maybe you're right.
So
maybe
I wonder if that's another thread that you can kind of pull on down the road. But
yeah, interesting. But is it episode 6? I mean, and then again, like He Who Remains, all of it. You're on the same page though.
Yeah, it's He Who Remains, who does a lot of the heavy lifting in this here. I think that's great. There's also this is going to be in what my age the best. from this. This could also be a rewatchable scene, but when Loki finally goes through, he learns, becomes a master in physics and all of that stuff, right? And he gets Timely to go and actually launch the loom. That whole, I was so invested in that. I was kind of like on the edge of my seat. It's riveting television there. Even though we've seen that play out already and we knew the outcome, but like every step was like, oh, is he going to make it? Is he going to blow up here? What's going to happen? And I kept waiting for something to go wrong. And it worked, but it didn't work at the same time.
It was
good stuff.
It really, like, honestly, like that episode alone was just that. I don't know if I could give it a 10 out of 10, but like that was as good an episode as we've seen from any of the Marvel shows.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was saying in the tweet length review, is that we're overrating this because we've been so disappointed by a lot of endings in Disney Plus shows. But this was just so good. This is top tier, series season finale type stuff.
Yeah, and I mean I feel like, honestly, part of me is like, giving it an 89 is like I felt bad about that when I first came to it, but I was like, there's so, like, again, we talked about how things kind of get so like complex where it's just like you can't fully take in everything, even with the subtitles on.
Mhm.
But like that also like it was a noticeable flaw in the show, or annoyance, I guess, in the show. But everything else was so good, and from the end of episode 4, where it's like, oh shit, it's like things are ending, from there till the end of episode 6, amazing. Like wouldn't change a single thing with how that was done. It was so good.
Yeah, no, absolutely there. And I think, again, the He Who Remains, just like I was in the, I don't know, was it episode 6, the season finale of episode 1 last year,
Yeah.
where I was hanging on every word that he was saying. And those conversations, I'm like, oh my God, like trying to take out any little bit of morsel for like a peek of what's ahead. It
Mhm.
was the same thing once again. So again, the snake eating its tail for me, literally, as the viewer there, at the final episode of season 2. So really great job there.
Yeah.
Rank Tom Hiddleston's performances as Loki, because now that the actor strike is over, he went on, I don't know, one of the late night shows, Kimmel, Fallon, something, and said that this was a nice goodbye to the character. Said something along those terms.
But he
And
also
it caused a big tiffy. And he had to clarify that. He's like, yeah, I've said goodbye twice before, so I wouldn't be surprised if I come back again. But who knows? So I wonder what that really means. Is that damage control of something that he slipped out on a TV show, or did he really misspeak and he was like, no, I'm probably going to be back?
Yeah,
So I don't know, but nevertheless, this is his last time as Loki.
this would be a great send off for the character, because in the court, if everywhere else, like, you have no reason to bring him back in the mix. As far as everybody else is concerned, he is no longer with us. So leave it alone. I mean, maybe if the MCU doesn't get rebooted and it's around for a lot longer, and then you want to bring him back at some point way down the line, okay. But you don't have reason to throw him back in the mix. It's again like a perfect send off. But for me, ranking Hiddleston's performances as Loki, which range from when he was 29 till where now he's 42 years old,
Mm-hmm.
crazy. But I would start with
That's nuts. Wow.
Thor Ragnarok, then the Avengers, and then Loki season 2. From there, Infinity War, but obviously not in it as much. Then Loki season 1, and then I would say it's a pretty significant drop off for everything else there. Thor, the Dark World, What If, and then I put Endgame behind What If just because he's barely in.
Yeah, what's he in Endgame? Oh,
That-
just going back in time with the space.
Yeah. Where we get the start of Loki season 1.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
What about you?
I think we're kind of close to it. So I love the Avengers Loki. I think that's great. He was one of the great first villain, or one of the first great villains, I should say, in Marvel there. And then I just kind of put Loki, the series, as number 2 there. I really like everything from. There's a lot of growth there for me throughout. Differentiating is kind of tough for me.
Sure.
On those there. Then Infinity War. I love his sacrifice play. I think that's pretty great.
Mhm.
Thor Ragnarok is a fun time, getting back to see him kind of being a little bit light, a little bit playful. And then Thor 1 and 2, I'll just throw them all together there. I forget what he is in What If. I don't really care for What If. That's what killed my other podcast there. So I just want to wipe that from my memory. And then we'll put Endgame last.
Yeah. Sorry, I had a little bit of a technical hiccup.
No, you're good. You're loud and clear on my end right now. But yeah, so I would say that's about it there. But Avengers definitely number one for me.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, I can't argue with any of that. I think if I was to lump in like Loki show all just together, that's it. I would definitely still keep it at my number 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's funny too, like just another thing thinking about Hiddleston as Loki, there's one thing when I'm watching it, we've seen it in the past, but he loves to do like almost like he just got punched in the gut and then he like jumps out, like he like snaps back up. It's like
and his hair flips, right? Yeah.
It's like the MCU version of the bend and snap.
That's great. I love that. That's good stuff there. And it's a shame too, because on that late night show, whatever one it was, he has short hair. And there's another movie where he's kind of like kind of like a jungle survivalist guy.
Yeah.
And he has short hair in that. And I just think that black hair is such a strong, black long hair, strong look. You should just wear that all the time. Like
his light
that
hair
looks very good at him.
I think his normal look, I think, is light hair.
Yeah. He's got like dirty blonde, light brown hair, and it's short.
Yeah, it's
like the long hair is a good strong look for him. So I wish he went back to that. Talk to whoever's doing makeup and all that stuff, the wig work, and just make that happen.
Yeah, there you go. What do you think's gonna age best from season 2 of Loki?
Well, that scene that I was talking about earlier, I thought that was really good when Victor Timely finally complete getting out to the loom and getting that set up. That whole kind of setup there with him, Loki repeating all the lines because he's been through everything, and then everyone's kind of looking around. They're like, what's going on? He's kind of moving through things at like 1.5 speed, trying to get everything done. I thought that was really cool. The practical effects and set design were great throughout this. I love the TVA with that like 60s, maybe 70s kind of retro look, but everything's in the future. I also love the 1893 set episode where they go to the Chicago World's Fair. Then you had his whole little, neighborhood of Victor Timely around him. I thought all of that was really cool. Again, such a big change of pace from not being in front of a green screen or a blue screen where everything is just heavy CGI. I thought that was a really, really nice change of pace. What else do I have here? The cyclical story. I thought that was very interesting. I don't know if that was something that was planned out from season 1 to kind of complete to season 2, or if they were able to connect all those dots in season 2. I think both are, could be done effectively here. So I'm not sure what the case was there. Loki and Mobius's relationship. I thought that, I know you didn't love Mobius that much, but again, that's such a huge part of the show. There was times where I just wanted to see them on their buddy cop adventure. And there were some points where some characters jumped in and I felt like they were just really ruining that vibe. And I just almost wanted them to get out and just give me more Mobius and Loki.
Look, I haven't always been like anti Owen Wilson, but this is one of those instances where it's like we talk about like when you get actors who were stars before they take on these roles, especially with an actor like Owen Wilson, where he just plays the same role pretty much all the time, just slightly changed up a little bit here and there. Like I just feel like Owen Wilson is not Dupree from You, Me, and Dupree, but at the same time, like I still feel like he's playing himself still. It's just like not a bum, and unlike in You, Me, and Dupree, which we watched like in the last 2 months or whatever.
I was going to say that's an odd choice to pull from You, Me, and Dupree out of the Owen Wilson discography. There,
I feel like we watched it like at least as late as August, recently as August, whatever it was. But anyways, so what my point was though, if they just said, you know what, Mobius is actually Owen Wilson, if they actually did that, I would have loved Mobius. I almost wish that's what they did.
But see, I think it works. I hear what you're saying, and sometimes that is tough because then you just see like Brad Pitt on the screen and no one else. Like I get that completely. But I think Mobius, and I know he's the co-star of this show, but in like the grand scheme of the MCU, he's really a bit character. So I think that works, so I think that plays a little bit more. He's not a hero. He's just a dude. Yeah, dude who loves jet skis. So I think that works a little bit more.
100%. Like, I'm saying all this and I still gave the show an
Yeah,
89.
yeah,
Like, it's
yeah.
not taking away that much. But if you go and make this like an Owen Wilson variant, then this would have been like I would have liked both seasons way more than I did. Like it would
Mhm.
have, that would have been something that would have would have been outstanding if we find out that's what Mobius's life actually was. Like he's a broke ass Owen Wilson or whatever. Oh, anyways,
Oh, we kind of had that. We almost had a moment. There's a timeline in this where they go back instead of going to the 70s to go hunt Brad there as a movie star. They go back and find Mobius, and he's just going around going, "Wow, wow, yeah, wedding crashers." Maybe that's a more timely pull.
Speaking of timely, for one of the age best for me, so Victor Timely, OB, and Loki, outstanding performances across the
Hmm.
board.
Hmm.
There were quite a few good ones, but those three stood out more than anybody for at least the live action characters. Miss Minutes was another amazing one. She was out of her friggin' mind, and I was totally here for all of it.
The lover thing kind of lost me a little bit there.
It was out there. It was out there, but
Yeah.
she was so unhinged and like, hey, like you're dealing with artificial intelligence. Weird shit's gonna happen.
That's true. So do we assume that maybe this is unanswerable questions? Do we have that down there?
I thought they said that she was artificial intelligence.
No. Do we assume that she's back? She's completely reset though.
Oh, they said she is. We saw her back, but she is reset. Like at the end of.
Can we trust that? Is she fully
No.
wiped though? You know what I mean?
That's a fair unanswerable question. Is she? And actually, that did cross my mind, but I was like, we know we can't trust her, so
Right.
it's not. I don't know if it's unanswerable. And then, kind of a lot of just echoing what you were talking about, like the finale is going to age tremendously well. Excuse me. The explanation of the loom being a failsafe, to have it all be this crazy wild goose chase, and it's like
For
no,
nothing.
it was always preserved for this, and it totally makes fucking sense. That doesn't. Like sometimes it hits like fine. Sometimes when you do that though, the wild goose chase is like, oh, what the fuck? Then what do we just spend our last like 2 hours, or in this case 6 hours doing? But it's like, no, it makes perfect sense how no one would fucking know but this one rat bastard. And then it all makes perfect sense, and it still fits his narrative.
And it's also about the fun you have along the way,
I'm generally about that, but there are some times where it's still like it can be annoying. Either way, and then He Who Remains, like the use of him in this is outstanding. It just the end and everything, like the way he just like when it's like when Loki finally figures it out, and he's like, "You finally figured it out. This is your first time. Do you really think I was gonna let her kill me?" It's like he just totally. He's still He Who Remains, but it's like a different He Who Remains still, where he's not as polished. Then he turns that back on too.
He does, right? No, absolutely. And I was almost wondering, he felt like a little bit more like he was talking with more slang this time around. You know what I mean?
RIP HWR.
Yeah. Like all this stuff. Yeah. So it wasn't exactly like, I don't know. That did kind of throw me out of it for a second. I was like, wait, was he like this in the first one? But
I was thrown. Yeah, for a moment I was thrown. But then once he starts explaining things, he gets back to like being who he is. So I enjoyed that. But
who he remained to be.
What about what'll age?
Well, you mentioned timely here because this is going into what's my age the worst for me. Because the stutter didn't work for me. It bothered me at times. I think where Jonathan Majors does such a good job of chewing the scenery as He Who Remains, him chewing the scenery as Victor Timely didn't land as me. I found it kind of annoying at times there. Just overall, like him, like the point that sticks out the most to me is when they're working on the loom and he brings out the prototype for his thing, and then he's like, "Oh wait, did you say a hot cocoa machine? I'd really like to see that." Then he just gets taken. I'm like, well, all right, what? Like, this is stupid. Like,
that was one of the weirdest things of like one of the oddest things of the entire season. It just like I get that this is a guy who's a smart individual, but there's so much like the TVA for anybody is just like a what the fuck. Like once you get
to it. And he just got rushed to like 200 years into the future.
So all of that, I get how he's just having these odd moments, but that was one thing that was like felt like it was the writing not great, and honestly, the acting was kind of odd in that moment too. So
And,
I don't know.
it was all just to get him taken by Ravonna and Miss Minutes again. It's like, can't we think of like another way? I think that was right?
Yeah.
You probably watched that episode sooner than I did, but however he
no,
got taken. Yeah.
He got taken by the Brad or whatever the hell.
That's right. Yeah.
But anyways, but yeah, and I still think using the hot cocoa machine, they could have done it, and it still could have been like more palatable. I just think like the way it was written and the way it was delivered, all of it was just like clunky.
But I did like him meeting OB and them kind of going back and forth at first. I thought that was very charming.
Yeah.
And another honorable mention: the Cube of Death. Pretty cool torture device.
Oh yeah. Wait a minute. What do I feel like? Yeah,
that kind of gets lost in the shuffle because so much gets thrown onto you in the last episode that like it's relatively meaningless. Like that whole storyline of Brad and who was it, General what's her name, General Dax.
Yeah, I think
General Dox there. All of that could have just been like gone to the wayside.
Yeah, but that was it could have. But that cube thing was.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
That ending, it makes sense that they didn't show it, obviously, but I'm like, this is for a Disney Plus show. This is pretty friggin' gruesome, even though we're not seeing it.
I wish they did show it though. I really wish they did show it because if we're supposed to be so evil and Ravonna is like led this general that we're led to believe of this army where she was kind of like a key player in helping Kang take over everything. Like she's pretty ruthless. I would like to see that. Also, that this kind of goes into what age the worst a little bit, but the show, the telling rather than showing. And there was a couple times when they're talking about like timelines are getting completely erased, and Hunter B-15's like, these are billions of lives that are being lost. It means nothing to me as the viewer to just show lines getting erased on the screen and then someone saying that's billions of people. Go there. Let's see it. Let's see a montage of people going into spaghetti form. You know what I mean? Like, I think some stuff like that was kind of frustrating. And that's where I was like kind of falling off in the season. Now it picks up, when we get away from the Brad and the General Doc storyline. And some of the Sylvie stuff, I thought Sylvie was completely misused this season. That's who I was referring to when I'm like, we're getting all this great stuff between Loki and Mobius, and then Sylvie kind of ruins everything. And in fact, she's like the foil of the whole series. Like, she's the reason why we're in the mess that we're in.
She was definitely one of the brighter spots for me in season 1. In season 2, she wasn't used as well as she could have been.
I didn't really get it. She was very angry at Loki to start things off, and that was confusing. I remember putting this in the group chat. I don't know if you had read that or saw that, but it just seemed like she had gotten what she wanted at the end of season 1. And they kind of end on a good note between Loki and Sylvie. Like, even though they kick each other, they kind of get into a fight, they come to some sort of like heart-to-heart moment. She kills He Who Remains and kind of like saves Loki, kicks him away to safety.
And
then she gets what she wants. So then when he shows up there, she's like very angry at him. And I don't understand where that's coming from.
Yeah, that felt a little odd to me in that moment too. I was like,
and her mullet too. I didn't really care for the mullet.
When he showed up though and she was angry, I was like, did they have like? I know they fought at the end, but like, did they have?
No, I had to go back and watch it just to like remind myself, and I'm like, no, like they fought, but they also kiss, and they also have this moment where he's like, I'm not going to stop you. Do what you're going to do, or whatever. He kind of like throws his hands up and it's like, I'm not going to fight you anymore. And she kicks him out of the room, and then she kills Kang. So it ends on like everything that she wants.
Yeah.
So I was just kind of like the motivation behind it. That felt like it wasn't really fully thought out. And the rumor was that she was supposed to be the one who sits at the end of time and is really controlling the TVA. and it was supposed to be I don't know how true this was, but the actress who played General Dox was going to be an older version of Sylvie.
Oh,
And there was good, but they maybe shifted around her characters. Maybe that was just rumor and hearsay. I don't know, but that was something that was getting floated out there. And then they changed it around.
if you had done that where Sylvie was holding it at the end, that would have been such a like it was. That would have
It's
felt
tough.
like
It's Tom Hiddleston's show. It's Loki. So to have, again, to make her at the end, like, I don't know how well that would have played over.
I mean, look, I'm saying now, who knows? Because I received the alternative, but
Right.
it was right that they did it with the right Loki. Because if it was the other Loki, it's like such a huge shift in the character. As much as we've seen this Loki change a ton from when he first got brought into the TVA, everything he did tracked. Like the writing of that character was spot on. Obviously, Tom Hiddleston does a great job as Loki. He's always done a great job as Loki. Yeah, if they had done that differently, the general doxing might have been interesting if it was a Sylvie variant or whatever, however you justify it. But yeah, no, they have the right Loki at the end of time there.
And what I will say, this is something that aged the best for me. And again, this kind of also gets wiped from my memory because this happened in episode like 2 or 3, and then like so much other stuff, important stuff happens. But when they're chasing Brad down in the 70s England, and you get to see Loki use his magic.
Yeah.
There's some really cool magic in here that you get to see because in this show, because he doesn't, the power use of magic isn't allowed in the TVA, right? So it's like you kind of forget that he's a god, and they kind of forget that too. They mention it a couple times. Loki's like, "Hey, we're gods. Like we can make this happen, right?"
That was another thing with the writing that was really good when he said that, when Sylvie, because she still is Loki, when Sylvie said that, that sounds like something God would do, and then or we're playing God, whatever it is. He's like, well, we are gods. I was like, oh, are we getting the old Loki back? Is he getting evil again? I loved that.
No, yeah, and I thought that was great. And again, when you see him down in that British alley and you see the horns come out and he's like playing all the steampunk gangsters, and he's kind of doing that body manipulation or whatever, all very, very cool stuff there. So that also aged the best to me. But anything else for what aged the worst?
I mean, the biggest one is it's just kind of one thing for me, but it's a big one. I think the entirety of the season, like rewatchability wise, it's not going to be great just because there is so much to kind of process. And there are certain things that, maybe they were helpful for later on at the end of the show. But I feel like if I want to rewatch Loki now, knowing all the stuff that goes on, I'm probably just going to watch the last 3 episodes of that.
Right.
The fourth one is awesome, and then it just sets off this chain of events where it's all like Tom Hiddleston. As much as he was there throughout all of it, it wasn't really as heavy on him until episode 4, and then it goes to another level in 5, and then obviously 6.
Yeah, no, absolutely there. And I agree. And maybe, someone who's a little smarter than us can watch this and then get something, really wrap their heads around it. So I don't know, maybe it does. But if you want to commit to it, it's all about your commitment.
100%.
Where do we go from here? What are the unanswerable questions?
So who actually wrote the TVA guide between Victor Timely and Owen?
I love this question. This is like a chicken or the egg, right?
100%. You have no clue. They do a great job with it in here, but it's also like, I feel like the way things ended where, the child Victor Timely is waiting for, like he looks around over his shoulder as if he's waiting for the TVA book. Like maybe that implies that it ends up being OB, but I don't know, man.
Well, so this goes into another good question here, and it kind of goes into some news that may have folded into trending now, but we saved it for here of what happens to Kang. So there was a little bit of news that came out. Joanna Robinson, who is the author of the MCU book that just recently came out, is also a co-host of a Ringer podcast. I think it's called House of M, something like that. But anyway, deals with all kind of pop culture lore, comic books, Lord of the Rings, all that stuff, Prestige TV, all that stuff. So they're talking about a review of Loki season 2, and they said Jeff Loveness, who was Nick, one of the original writers on Loki, is that correct?
And also wrote Quantumania.
I think it was I think he's a Rick and Morty guy. He was slated to write Kang Dynasty, but now she said she got confirmation that he's no longer doing this.
Right.
So this kind of can be, if you take the information from the Variety article where one executive or bigwig there was saying that the Kang storyline is fucked because after watching the episode 6 of Loki there, the season finale. So this all kind of comes into like, all right, maybe they're trying to shift away from Kang, who is not really working or getting the type of hit that they hoped, coupled with Jonathan Majors' legal troubles and what's going to happen there. So the theory that she posed, and I think this is kind of an interesting out, is that the way that the story ends, and when they show that scene specifically of a young Victor Timely looking back when he's filling those candles, looking for that book, is that Loki says, he's like, no, we can change the formula, right? We can change the formula there and just kind of rework everything that He Who Remains did to keep everything in place. What if that reworking was eliminating all the Kangs, like kind of pushing, like not like killing all the Kangs, but making all of the other Kangs not become evil?
Yeah.
So those so he doesn't get the book. So he doesn't, develop the time loom and all this other stuff. So like,
they definitely did a good job of if they wanted to move on from Kang.
Yeah, so like maybe he's erased from the timeline now.
Or if they have to, they have put it in a position where that could happen. And it goes so far, and I think we weren't talking about this on the show, but beforehand, there's a scene, I believe it's the end of episode 2, if not 3, where we see Renslayer, Miss Minutes, both at the end of time, and then there's the dead He Who Remains. And I think we get it at the start of the next episode where it's like, we don't need him. Like they're talking about He Who Remains, but in the end, it's like this feels like a meta comment on Kang in general.
Yeah.
Like the MCU can move forward without him. Now, that all said, where I think they can move on from Kang, and even they could move on from Kang now, and then like give it time, and then come back to the character after everybody keeps talking about Doom. By the way, everybody's talking about Doom. If everybody's talking about Doom as the thing, that means it's almost certainly not going to fucking happen.
I know, right?
It's so obvious.
It's Tom Cruise's Iron Man.
Yeah, Mephisto, all of it.
Yeah.
But the other thing to point out too, on the opposing view, and it seems like friend of the show Casey Walsh is on this side of things he's not reporting anything, but he's highlighting these dots that are being connected here. Kevin Wright, Loki producer, says that Michael Waldron is working on both upcoming Avenger films, which would be Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars. He also mentions how much Waldron loves these worlds, Kang and the Multiversal Wars, as he helped create them. And this is from an interview on the Phase Zero CB, which I think is comicbook.com podcast, like their Marvel show. So
okay,
a lot of stuff going on, but it's been like that since Jonathan Majors started having the issues that he's had off the field. But yeah, I mean, like I don't know where we go from here, but I do think that we're in agreement that they put themselves in a pretty good spot to move on from him
one way or the other and still have outs there. Yeah.
Yep,
it's kind of like if we were to go with Joanna Robinson's theory there, it's kind of like, going back in time to kill baby Hitler. Like maybe you don't kill baby Hitler, but maybe you hit on his mother the night that he meets his father.
Right.
The first time they meet, and then they never become parents, and then Hitler's never created. Maybe it's something like that. You're not really changing history, but you're just giving a little bit of push.
And on the other side of it, where it's like, we still have all these multiverses, but it's like being controlled differently. Like, was it what's his face? He Who Remains said, like, all my variants are created already. Like we have all the multiverse, like all the different timelines at the end of it, but like he said, like all my variants have been created. So you can go either way with this.
Yeah. So it's and again, we don't really know what we're talking about here. It's all very convoluted. So that's probably by design in a certain way, or just muddy the water so you can't really see the bottom.
100%.
At the end, where was Ravonna at the end of her final scene? And what did she see at the end of the series there? So we see her in like, there's kind of a pyramid going on there, and there's a big purple light that she sees.
Yeah, I mean, I think I saw this out there on Twitter where she's at what was that place that Loki went to where he met the variant Lokis? Like
Yeah,
the
it's like
croc.
I don't know what it's called, but it's like at the end of time there, right? It's
Yeah,
right before there, and it's like
the void maybe.
Alioth is the monster, right? It was that.
I think so. Yeah, I think that's what it was. So I think that's where she is. It looks very much like that. I don't was if there was a pyramid in that place, then that would probably
Because
answer
she
the
was
question.
pruned.
Yeah, so it makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
That's where where she went. So yeah, that's all I got for you there.
Now, my other thought was my first thought was with the pyramid back there. Is that where the Rama Tut variant of Kang was? And does she get link up with
Oh,
him? Because
yeah.
he at the end at the end of Quantum Mania, when they bring all those Kangs together into the arena, and we see the three major Kangs there,
Hmm.
the one who seems to be the leader was the Rama Tut one.
Right. That would make sense.
So I don't know. Maybe it could be something there too. But again, who
Mhm.
knows what's happening with Kang?
Right.
Um, does the MCU adapt? This might be kind of overreaching my boundary here, but does the MCU adapt Doctor Doom's Secret War storyline into Loki, where he is controlling everything? Maybe he's pulling heroes to a safe space or all to one timeline
Hmm.
to get a battle world thing going on here. Could it kind of like how they take different characters and morph them into one? If it's not Doctor Doom who replaces Kang, could Loki kind of assume some of Doctor Doom's
Oh.
comic book storylines, or is that
Oh.
bad?
I don't think so. I mean, I really do think that like Hiddleston could come back as Loki. I don't think it's going to be as prominent, near as prominent
Okay,
as what it's been. So no. I mean, it's a fair question, but I don't think so.
all right.
My last one is how did Casey, who I think is known as Frank, when he was at Alcatraz?
Yeah, I think so. Yep.
So my other unanswerable question is, how did he end up in jail? What did he do?
I don't know, but I liked that. I was really interested. And at times I was a little frustrated by that episode because it was like so much of a bottle episode and it's moving backwards. And I'm like,
Mm,
no, give me more of what's going on with the story. But it was really cool to see again him escaping from Alcatraz and particularly pulling on the heartstrings of Mobius there with being the single dad raising two kids on his own and then having to leave them there.
freaking,
Um,
freaking
but
Mobius
the
trying to.
Casey stuff was interesting because he's so feckless in the in the TVA. He's just kind of like a buttoned up nerd,
Mhm.
so to see him kind of get a little bit of edge to him was cool.
Friggin' like Mobius try like one of my favorite things was him trying to sell um B-15, like the doctor version of her, trying to sell her on jet skis. It's like, what are you doing right
Yeah,
now?
we got great financing options here.
Oh,
um,
what?
but yeah, I thought that was really cool. But how did he get to jail? I don't know. You don't
Yeah.
want to get too crass with it.
No, but it's I think it's I'd be curious if the
'Cause
writers know. I feel
what
like
do you
that's the
do
thing.
to get sent to Alcatraz too? It's not just any jail.
Yeah, no, it's not just any jail. So now he could be like
It's
this big time bank robber. He did bring up like going to a bank vault, so it sounds like he's more of that.
Oh, that's a good point. I forgot that there. Yeah, he's probably a bank robber. Yeah, had some Tommy guns, something like that.
It was the '60s, but I mean, yeah. I mean, how dark do you want to dark can this character go? I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting stuff there. I like that. I think that's it for that one. Okay, who had the best performance by a side character?
We're by and large in agreement here. It's between He Who Remains, Ob, and Miss Minutes for me. I think I'm gonna go with OB here because he was in it more. But he who okay, OB is Cal Ripken, but he who remains is Mark McGuire.
Ah, okay. Yeah. I like OB, if this might borderline on the, recurring character bit player sort of
Mm,
thing. He I I love OB. He Who Remains stole the show for me. Again,
okay,
I think Jonathan Majors as He Who Remains with his ability to choose scenery, even if his accent was a little off this time around, it really works for me.
maybe we should create a separate category and then obviously just one, from time to time, but like
We're
side
getting to that
character
point.
and bit character
I
because
think
like
so.
yeah, because it happens to us. But anyways, I got no problem with going with He Who Remains as the winner on this one. Who
Hmm.
lost the show?
So my first thought was Sylvie because I was very frustrated and disappointed by her usage here. Also because again, she's like the root of most of the problems that occur in this whole series, not even just this season, but particularly at the end where he's got to try to like this is talk about a meta commentary here. Loki is trying to convince Sylvie in conversations over and over and over again and trying to convince logic to her. And she is just so emotionally rage bound that she can't be talked to. And he repeats this thousands of times and still can't convince her. It's that's got to be an allegory for men just talking with women on the general. You're a married man. You might understand that a little bit there.
We communicate lovely. Lovingly. I don't know.
But yeah, so I think just with her misusage, that moment that I was just describing and her mullet, that's a trifecta for a loss there.
You raised some fair points on Sylvie for her having lost, unfortunately. Yeah, I can't deny that. I don't think she gets my vote. I do think Timely is. I think from how the character was handled, Sylvie. But I think from what happens to the character, Victor Timely gets the rawest deal in all of this.
Oh yeah, he gets killed a couple of times over, right? And then he gets wiped off the timeline completely. He doesn't even become the person that he was supposed to become at the end of it.
100%. It's I mean, no one suffers. He's in between. He's getting chased all over friggin' time and everything like that. And he has no clue what the hell's going on. So he gets it the worst. But him and Miss Minutes were my two losers that I came up with. But you got some other ones that make sense, or at least one of them does.
Ravana loses for me a little bit because I felt like she was kind of misused, or her story was kind of weird. We kind of get that love story that kind of happens between Timely and Ravana there, but they end the season 1 with her being a principal or a teacher, and they end her in a schoolroom, and they never return back to that at all. And I kept waiting for that, like her backstory to get delve into a little bit more. Again, with showing or with telling and not showing here, they tell us that Ravana was a key figure in winning the multiversal war between all the Kangs, but we don't get a flashback to it. We don't even get like a little figurine scene, which we got in, I don't know if it was Quantumania or the first Loki season, but he has the little black figurines that kind of describe everything as he's telling the story of the great multiversal war. I don't know if that rings a bell to you.
It thought it did, but no, actually.
Yeah. All right. Well, they don't show anything of it. They just say that she was a key factor. Well, how? Tell me more about it. So I thought, again, her time in there, like, she's in there a lot, but we don't really get a lot of information of her, and she ends up in an odd place.
I couldn't believe when she got what do you call it? Pruned. Yeah, the first time around, I was like, holy shit. How is Mobius on your list of losers? I am actually surprised by this one.
I love it. He loses the show a little bit because he leaves his kids. Now, I know he's told that he's not really leaving them, that they bring him back at any point in time. But at the end of the season, he's talking to Hunter B-15, and he's leaving the TVA, right?
Mm-hmm. Seems like it.
So he's going back to his family.
Right, but I think he's going back to that exact moment where he originally left. That's the whole thing.
Okay, so maybe he does win there. So I'm wondering, like...
No, go ahead.
What does he do with the other Mobius?
I don't think there is.
It's just him. Okay.
It's just him. He's going back to like right after that moment where he left with Loki. He's showing up right. Supposedly, it's what it seems like.
And I guess so, because like the time slipping thing at a certain point, like Loki goes into his former self. It's not like him watching himself, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
But this thing with time too, and this happened. I feel like I saw this on something else too. But it's like we got stuff going on. No, I think it was all in this. Like we have stuff that's going on right now, and like if we don't get back in time, it's like, well, time. If you're in like this place right now, like if you're in the future right now, all the stuff that's happened in the past has happened already. And if you go back to that specific spot that you want, then the other shit hasn't happened. No matter how long you are here in the future, it doesn't matter till you actually go to the past. And I know the TVA itself kind of adds like a different layer to it, but I feel like I saw that in something else where it's never the fucking same. And I time travel, as much as I've liked this show, time travel to me is one of like the just, if you mix that in with a show, you're playing with fucking fire, a show or a movie.
Right, yeah, because there's
Any
only
story.
a couple of theories, right? There's the Back to the Future theory where like you do something and then it changes the future. There's that's like the butterfly effect, right? Then there's a branch timeline or something. There's all these different stuff that you can go off of here.
But it's just
Um,
you're always you're always opening yourself up to unnecessary questions. Whereas like if you're just trying to tell a good story, it could be in a book or a comic too. It's like if you can avoid that, I would just recommend fucking avoiding that. I know
yeah,
sometimes
yeah,
there's
yeah.
turn around it, but it just I don't know. I'm not big on time travel in general. So from a story standpoint, at least.
I'm
Anyways,
with it. It gets convoluted that way. I hear you.
yeah. Who won the show, Wes?
It's Tom Hiddleston. It's his
Yep.
show. To see that character come full cast, I saw someone else tweet this out. But when you talk about like S tier casting, he's really gone up there with the Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man, Chris Evans as Captain America. All of that stuff. I think he's in that right now in that
Yeah.
group.
I've always thought that Tom Hiddleston as Loki was friggin' outstanding. He was so good from the jump. I mean, even in Thor, where it was like a so first movie, even though for some reason now everybody wants to like gush over it for some reason because of revisionist history. I like.
I just disappear.
You disappeared. Yeah, this
It's
is
happening again.
It's perfect for this fucking episode.
That's
but
true.
yeah,
I'm on another timeline.
yes, there we go. But in general, like Loki's one of Tom Hiddleston has been one of the best castings that we've seen in the MCU, and that is saying a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Here. So once again, you can hear my voice, but you can't see my face. That's Loki season 2. Nick gave it an 89. I gave it an 86. That's good for an 87.5. Tied for number 18 in our CMM MCU rankings. Not far behind Loki season 1, which got an 89.5. So if you haven't watched it, go stream it now on Disney Plus. 6 episodes. And where we watched this in 2 different ways, Nick, you pretty much binged this by all intents and purposes here. I went week to week. Do you think that changed the way you viewed this at all?
I think that it would have. I think it would have had an impact on like the first 3 for me a little bit more so. Maybe the first 2, but like once it got to 4, I was like, oh, I just need more. So I was fortunate to have the ability to binge the last 3 in the end.
I think I might have had a score more similar to yours had I binged it.
Probably.
Just because I wouldn't be stuck on those lulls at episodes like maybe 2 and 3.
That's true.
There and just waiting like, all right, where are we going? For 14 days until episode 4 there.
That's fair.
But yeah, so all right, interesting stuff. Go check it out. Now go get your tickets because the train is leaving the station, ladies and gentlemen.